Hey, what's up, guys? It's Stan Medina. I wanted to bring y'all some helpful books that you can read this summer. And let me explain to you this. Like, reading was one of the hardest things that I had to overcome. And let me tell you a little bit of a story about myself. I dropped out of school in 9th grade. I had twin boys, dude. And so from ninth grade, I went to go work at a body shop. I started off as a porter. I had to learn how to buff. I started doing minor body work. I went through the whole, chain of system, from top to bottom, until I became a business owner. And it wasn't until probably about maybe 10 years ago, maybe 10 plus years ago, I decided to pick up a book. And man, I can admit, it was hard at first. I didn't understand. It was very hard for me to read. It was very hard for me to comprehend. But I knew that if I stayed with it, that it'll start to become natural to me. And so every day I just read a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and I just continued, growing in myself, my knowledge, based off of books. And now, I mean, dude, I'm like a big fan of books. Every day I read. Every day I read, in the morning, at night. So I'm just gonna share with you some books that I really challenge you. I mean, if you want to grow if you want to be a business owner, if you want to build any kind of wealth, you gotta pick up a book, man. You gotta pick up a book, and you gotta start educating yourself with the right content. You gotta start investing in yourself. Yes, who buys books? Everybody, I remember I was like, who the hell is gonna buy books? But now I buy books all the time. So these are some of the books that I encourage you, man. I really encourage you. If you're a technician, if you're in any kind of vocational trade, once you start building your knowledge along with your vocational trade, you'll be unstoppable. You'll be unstoppable. So the first book I'm gonna recommend is Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. It never gets old. You can read this thing today. You can read it in 5 years, and you're gonna learn something from it. It never goes old. For some reason, there's just so much knowledge in there. And I highly suggest you start with Think and Grow Rich. Pick it up, and I'm gonna get into some tips that's gonna help you become a better reader. So, Rich Dad Poor Dad is another great book that I highly recommend that you read. I've read all these books, and I would read them again. I would read them again and again. It's not like I learned something so valuable from all these books that I want you to experience that. And one thing that I've learned about books is that everybody gets something different from each book. So you might read it, your wife might read it, and y'all both might take something different from that book. So, I mean, one thing you could do is you could buy 2 copies, buy one for yourself, one for your wife. If your wife's a reader, give her the book. I guarantee you it'll change her mindset. So, Rich Dad Poor Dad is another awesome book. I highly recommend that book. This book actually helped me make my transition into real estate investing. From this book, I understood the difference between an asset and a liability, and it made me take that leap to become a real estate investor. So this is a very powerful book. How to Win Friends and Influence People is a very popular book about communication, understanding people, understanding your environment, taking more control of your environment. The One Thing, man, it's a powerful book. I highly recommend you read The One Thing. It gives everything that we do a whole different perspective. Managing oneself. Managing oneself is also these are all powerful books. I'm gonna tell you right now. Managing oneself. It's a short read. It's about this thick. I think it's 50 pages or something like that. But managing oneself explains on how everybody learns differently. Some people are visual. Some people like to hear. Some people like to hands-on. If you're in a vocational trade, you're more like hands-on. You're probably the type that instead of if you're gonna put your toys, your kids' toys together, you don't even read the instructions. You just start putting it together. Okay, that means you're more hands-on. you're more visual. There are some people that are more analytical. They like to read the instructions first, then. So managing oneself clearly breaks down the different learning styles. And once you determine and once you figure out your learning style, you can gravitate more to that strength. So if your thing is more audio, like I know one thing right now, YouTube videos are real popular. This is a YouTube video, right? And so I'm giving you content. You're watching it, you're hearing it, you're absorbing it. That might be your learning style. So just imagine if you exchange, watching rap videos and watching, content that's not educational. You switch it around and go back to your history and say, look, man, in the last 6 months, I might have watched one educational video. What if you switch that around? Imagine how much knowledge you'll consume. So managing oneself, Sam Walton, Made in America, powerful book, powerful book. This book inspired me so much because Sam Walton didn't discover Walmart till like he was in the past 50, 40s, 50s is when he really started kicking into gear and started creating like this massive wealth. So if you're at 40, if you're like, man, you know what, I'm already done. Like my prime was at my 20s. You're wrong. Your prime is now. The time to do it is now. If you're watching this and you're in your 20s, 25, man, you're way ahead of the game, bro. Now you better get on. You better get on it because now's the time to shine. So I'm telling you right now, if you're 20 to 25, if you're 20 to 30 and you're watching this, man, you're in a good spot. Pick up these books, man. Pick up these books. Another one is The Millionaire Next Door. It's a very powerful book too. All these are very, very powerful books. So I'm gonna share with you some things. A lot of these books you can actually search on YouTube and put Think and Grow Rich full audio, and you can probably like listen to the whole books on audiobook through YouTube. If you want to take it up another notch, you can get into Audibles where you have the audiobook on your phone. That's very powerful too. So imagine if you're at work and you're listening to this content. So now you're working at a job that you don't like, but you're getting paid to educate yourself. So educate yourself. So it doesn't matter if you're cutting grass, if you're picking up trash, what are you putting in if you're driving, man, you know what? If I meet drivers all the time, I tell them, I said, dude, you're like the luckiest guy right now. He's like, why do you say that? I said, you have so much time to just educate yourself on whatever content you want. He's like, man, I'm driving here out of town every morning. I drive like about an hour and a half. I said, dude, an hour and a half every day, that's 3 hours a day, to and from. I mean, how much you can absorb so much content in that time. Imagine how many audiobooks you can listen to during that time. Imagine how much YouTube videos you can watch. Imagine how much content you can become an expert at any field if you just absorb enough information. Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The One Thing, Managing Oneself, Sam Walton, Made in America, and then The Millionaire Next Door. I encourage you guys, get these books, get one of them. If you don't want to buy it, just go to YouTube and see if you can get it. Search Audible, audio. Just go to the one thing. I don't know. Some of these might not be available, but I know some of the older ones might be. I know Rich Dad Poor Dad is on YouTube. Go by there, look it up, buy the book, dude. Go to Barnes & Noble, order it on Amazon. It's cheap. Order the book. Even if you're not a good reader, put it on your desk. I'm gonna tell you one trick that you can do, and I did this trick. Like I would buy the book. I would buy the audio for my phone. So I would be reading the book, but I would also be listening to the audio book. So let's say I'm at the gym and I'm working out, I'll be listening to the audio in my headphones. And then when I'm in the sauna, I start reading the book as I'm listening to the audiobook. So I'm consuming both content. I'm visualing, I'm reading it, I'm hearing it. I'm just consuming myself with content. Either which way. So I'm just consuming myself. So that's another powerful thing. And what it does, it makes you become a faster reader. Another thing too, this is another helpful tip. Whenever you're gonna read a book, read the chapters first. The table of contents. Read what each chapter is about. Because when you read the table of contents, it kind of gives you a little idea of what that chapter is about. So you're looking out for that idea. So, for example, chapter 1 might be the powerful moment. So now in the book, you're saying, okay, this was a powerful moment. How did this change his life? How did Sam Walton change his life? What was his powerful moment? When was his break? What did he do to get that break? The same thing with Millionaire Next Door. There's a bunch of different good subjects in this book. I highly recommend these books. Read the one thing too. Like it tells you one thing about the one thing is that everything relies on the compound effect. So I didn't put that up here. I want y'all to start with these books, but I can give y'all a bunch more books. Start with these basics. Just read one of them. I guarantee you it'll change your life. I guarantee you. Read the book. If you don't understand it, read it again. If you still don't understand it, read it again. Like, you're gonna get the knowledge. You're gonna get it. You know, and it's gonna benefit you. It's gonna benefit your family. It's gonna help you start to build wealth and the lifestyle that you deserve. We all deserve it. Later, guys.